Hey folks, it's John Schneider and welcome to another episode of Raritan Bayshore Living. And this is kind of unusual because I'm not in a familiar surrounding. I am in a Disney World of sorts with a man who could be referred to as the Walt Disney of music. I don't even know where to begin in this interview. He's a lot like I am. That's kind of scary. He's a little bit younger. His name is Mikey.
Call me, not Mickey. Close. Call it Michael.
He's no Mickey Mouse, I'll tell you right now. It's Mike Grande. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and you were the first person to ever reach out to me for an interview. I'm actually flattered because no one's ever said, hey, can I interview you?
Listen, I saw a podcast of his on the internet, and I was impressed. Impressed with your persona, impressed with what you were trying to do, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And I kind of got a sense that you'd be an interesting guy to talk to. What's so interesting about you anyway?
Well, there's lots of things we could talk about. So for those of you who really don't know much about me, I guess you could say I'm a computer guy, I'm an IT guy, I'm a professional. I am the most successful failure in music or rock and roll that you'll ever meet. So you just met the most successful failure. So I started out, 14, 15 years old playing music. And then, I wanted to be famous, the next Jimmy Page, right? So, I did really well. I wrote my own stuff. You'll find me on iTunes. I did some sessions for Electric Ladyland Studios, Hendrix's studio. I recorded.
Yeah, for sure.
I recorded in his basement.
And I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and went to the back room and was able to touch his costumes, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, so that's where that started. And, I'm doing the band thing, playing shows. And then before you know it, I'm 28 and my wife proposes to me. I'm like, oh, jeez.
Really?
She proposes to me because I had no intentions of getting married. It was almost like a test, right? So she gets down on her knee, gives me a ring.
That's a good start.
Yeah. So I looked at the ring. I said, I guess that means I got to get a medical plan and a dental plan.
Oh, my God.
So I went back to school. I finished up my degree, which is in teaching social studies, political science.
Nice.
I taught high school for about 6 months and said, I can't do this. Because growing up as a musician, I was also a music teacher, coach.
Yeah.
And if you didn't practice, I would say, don't come back anymore. That's the way it was. Yeah. So if I was in school and these kids weren't doing their homework, I'm like, I'm not doing this.
And a lot of them don't. I mean, they don't get the whole idea of muscle memory, of practice, and doing it over and over again.
That's exactly right.
They just want to play and be a rock star, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And in this case, it was, making $30,000 a year for what? Wasn't worth it. So I got into the IT field. And as I'm doing that, I'm still playing guitar and I'm slowing down a little bit. But then I realized in the world of Wall Street, you have bonuses. So I started with this great company called NatSource, and I was getting these bonuses and I'm saving them. I'm like, I'm going to open up a music school because nobody knows how to teach the way I did. So I'm going to have my students come, they'll teach for me, and I'll finance everything.
Nice.
And
that's what you've done. And Mike took me on a tour of this place before we went on the air, and I said to him, it's a lot like Disney World, and it's so much here, and maybe we can show you some of the things that he showed me as we talk about it. How would you describe this place? Where are you located, and what's here, and what do you offer?
That's a great question. I'm in Central Jersey, Marlboro, New Jersey, specifically the Costco Shopping Center on Route 9 in Morganville. What is it that you get here is the experience. We use music as a tool to teach things like confidence and self-esteem, but we want that child or that adult to come in and experience what it's like to play. So for those of you that don't know, each one of the rooms, we have the West Coast and we have the East Coast. We have all the clubs you'd see on the West Coast, whether it's the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Viper Room, the Roxy, or the East Coast, we have CBGB's, the Bitter End, there's L'Amour's, and the Stone Pony, no less.
I'm telling you, that's why it's like Disney World, because he's got little... I remember when I studied, my first instrument to study was a guitar, and it was an Elvis Presley guitar.
Wow.
And I went into it, well, it wasn't a really
No,
Elvis
I
Presley,
know.
but they had Elvis Presley. That was my hero back then. And I would go into a little room with some old guy, and I couldn't wait to leave.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave this. This is really something. When you walk in the door, what do you hear?
You hear a crowd chant because we really feel we got to break that child's state. Kid comes in, they failed their class, they dropped and broke their iPhone, they're punished, they had a fight with their friend. You hear a crowd chant like you're at an Aerosmith concert, and it's like, oh my God, I'm home. And then all of a sudden you change the stage. So then when they go to see what room they're playing in, their coach is like, Johnny, you're playing the Stone Pony today. And you really feel like you walk the red carpet, you know, you got you pull up the ropes and you walk into the Stone Pony, and you get that three-dimensional feel of you're walking into the Stone Pony.
You've got a recording studio here. You've got a sound booth. And what are some of the instruments that they can learn to play?
Rock and roll instruments, including ukulele. But when you learn here, that's what. So you're looking at the surface. Let's get into the guts here at Rock Out Loud. The guts that, and what I mean is a music lesson. So let's say, John, you want to learn an Elvis Presley song. He's your favorite. You know, Jailhouse Rock. You know, down there. What if I told you I can get you Elvis Presley's backup band into a computer, remove the guitar, teach you the guitar parts, and then you're playing in Elvis Presley's band.
I got goosebumps.
Well,
when do we start?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
So that's what we offer here, is you're experiencing to play with Elvis Presley. And then it doesn't end there. So let's just say it's too fast for you. Well, we'll slow that specific song down. So Jailhouse Rock is a little bit slower. And then when they're done with that lesson, we take that MP3, we email it to you. So now the lesson's not over after 30 minutes. Now you have the whole week to play over Elvis.
So you're giving kids not only the experience, but you're giving them the proof of the pudding. They can take away stuff and show their friends, and they want more and more and more. And maybe those kids will tell their friends, you gotta come down here.
Rock Out Loud.
Because, and it doesn't have to be kids. It can be people like me, right?
Oh,
all
absolutely.
ages.
Yeah, we have great programs for adults. Like, we know that the adults really want to get away from the kids sometimes.
Yeah.
So what we do is we offer this thing called Rock and Merlot. Rock and Merlot for older people.
What is it again?
Rock and Merlot.
Rock and Merlot?
Right, Merlot, like the drink, like the wine. So I'll give you an example.
Right.
So we get up to 10 people all around. We have strawberry fields with the Imagine mosaic. So just put that in your mind.
You got to see it.
Yeah. So you have all of these adults circled around in their bar stools. They can bring their own wine if they'd like. We give out ukuleles. There's no cost for the ukuleles. You don't have to own one. I think we charge $29 for the experience, but you come in with your own wine. We give you ukuleles, and then we teach you songs with one finger. So over the course of 90 minutes, it's catered. You'll be able to play some simple songs. And on December the 14th...
I want to do this. I want to do this.
You know what? I'm going to invite you. On December the 14th...
I have a ukulele.
Well, that's great.
I have I collect instruments. I don't necessarily play them well.
Well, you don't need to, as long as you got a finger.
I do.
And then you're all set. So we're flying somebody in from Beverly Hills. Her name is Mary Ruth. She teaches all the stars in Beverly Hills. I'm very good friends with her. She's flying in and doing our third or fourth class on December the 14th. You're welcome to come.
Yeah. This place, I guarantee it, you walk in here and you're going to react the same way I did. And the same way that I've seen people react on your TV or podcast program that have said, I can't believe this.
Thank you.
And kids and parents will come in here, and I guarantee it, they will say and react in the same exact way. And you've got so many features in this place. I don't know where to begin. You have theater seating. You've got this fabulous table. Can we show, while we're talking, show all of the images of the place?
With James. James Buckley could do everything. James Buckley is one of the greatest photographers, videographers.
We got to give a plug to James. James is in the back. He's circling like a hawk. He's like going from camera to camera just to make sure that it's all working.
Just to give James a little bit more credibility here. So I knew James for maybe 5 or 6, 7 years. He's known my son. And he always said he loved photography. He always said he wanted to work here. So this was 2.5 years in the making.
Nice.
And he said, I'm going to do it. And I'm like, are you sure? And he's giving me 110%. His videos are phenomenal.
Well, when you weren't looking, you were out of the room. I made a side deal. I said, why don't you put something together that's artistic that you want to do aside from, Mike Grande?
I will kill him.
And
I will kill you.
No. And I'll show it on my program because I love to showcase talent and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
So James came into the picture and he films this whole thing, but this is a theater. So if you notice when we do these podcasts, we have families come to watch. So what I like to do, it's called Rock City Central. It's completely has nothing to do with Rock Out Loud. I wanted to use this room to entertain children that came in. Let's just say, John, you played your very first gig at 9 years old. I'd be like, John, I'm going to interview you on our podcast,
Yes,
the Rockoutloud.
yes.
You tell me what it was like.
I love it.
So the coach that was teaching them, hey, what was it like to be on stage at the Stone Pony?
Mike, I'm imagining that when kids come in here for a lesson, and maybe it's their first, maybe it's their second, maybe it's their 12th, you see a change come over them over some period of time, perhaps in the first 5 minutes. But what are some of the changes? Because you not only have a place here, you have a place in Staten Island as well, and you've been doing this for a while, and you bring the same enthusiasm and energy to Staten Island as you do to this place, I'm sure of it. What are the transformations that you see in children, especially when they learn to play something in this kind of an environment?
You're not going to believe the answer to this question, because none of the parents did. I want to say about June the 11th, that was the date. We played to 350 people, and I got up on stage and I said to the parents, ladies and gentlemen, at my music school, music is secondary. And all of the teachers looked at me, all of the coaches and the parents, they stopped. They're like, this is the owner of this music school. Why is music secondary? I said, because we use music as a tool. For example, if your child wants to build confidence, we're going to use music to help build confidence and self-esteem and leadership skills. And then somebody said, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, your child just played to 350 people today in front of this huge audience.
Isn't that fabulous?
And then I said, what do you think your child would feel like when they have to do a book report in front of 30 of their peers? It's like, I got this, you know?
So one of the challenges I teach every once in a while, I'm a substitute teacher, and one of the things that I have trouble with, although I know how to deal with it now, is getting them to focus.
Yes.
And in some ways, how do they focus with all this? But how do you get them to focus?
The perfect answer. We don't teach what the teachers want to teach. We teach what the children want to learn.
Oh, yeah.
That's the big difference. You come in, you wanted to learn Elvis Presley, and I'm teaching you Mary Had a Little Lamb. You're not going to come back for that second week. If you're not inspired to learn the music that really inspired you to pick up that instrument, well, then you're not going to play again.
You know, the best teacher I ever had was a young guy that I was a little bit older than he was, and I said, okay, let me show you what I do now. I kind of do this, and I want to do, and it wasn't very good. And I said, I want to do this a little better.
Right.
I don't want to learn all kinds of new stuff. I don't want to learn all about signature and chord and all that. I just want to do this better. Right. And he went, all right, well, let's do that. And then slowly but surely, he was kind of holding my hand, and he taught me to do this better, but then he moved me into some other areas, and I was grateful.
And that's what we do. So let's say somebody wants to learn a Zeppelin song. We'll teach you what Jimmy Page played, but then teach you the key he played it in and the scales he used. So they're inadvertently showing them the music theory, and when they learn that their idol Jimmy Page did that, well, then I got to learn it. Same thing with Van Halen or whoever it is. So we really want to connect with them at that level of what inspired them. Because if we're going to teach them something that doesn't inspire them, well, what's it for?
Mike, let me ask you a little bit about you. We had talked about this notion that you're kind of a Renaissance guy. A lot of things you want to do. You do a lot of things already. And I know that there are lots of places that you could go in terms of your imagination, in terms of what might turn you on. And granted, this is a great opportunity for you. You get a lot of satisfaction. But if you didn't have all of this, just for a moment, knock on wood, what do you like to do?
That's a great question. And I was just telling my coaches about an hour ago, I love to give back. And I really feel that the universe has granted me the financial position to do that. And the reason why that all came up is while I was in the meeting with my two coaches an hour ago, I got a call about somebody else donating more turkeys. So what I do with my music school is we have all of the kids help deliver turkeys to people and families who are less fortunate. So that's coming up next Sunday. I think that the universe has granted me these gifts so I can just give back. I do things all the time just to help you. I love helping people. I love being there for people. Teaching a child how to play their favorite songs is great for me. And you know, the coaches that are working for me now, they're working with me, not working for me, because they know my mission. And it's an amazing thing when you have people now that buy into your mission and you're creating a community of leaders to just give back. Whatever it is that I would be doing would entail giving back.
Where do you think that comes from? Is there something in your childhood? Was it your parents? Was it an experience? Why? Have you always felt this way? How did it, you think, develop?
I guess I would go back to maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. My child, I have a son Mateo. Now he's 14, but he was 9 years old, and I was working for a hedge fund. They were a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund with literally the only people that had tickets into Madison Square Garden's box where you can actually. We had our own fireplace. We would walk out, and there it was. We just experienced the most incredible WWE wrestling event. And we go back, and we had in Madison Square Garden, we had a waitress bringing us cookies for him. And
that's only happened to me a few times,
yes.
But it is an
amazing experience.
Yeah, yeah.
And we walk out after the most incredible night, and my 9-year-old son goes, "Dad, what's that?" And I'm like, "Those are homeless people." He goes, "Well, why aren't they living in a home?" I'm saying, "Because they're homeless." He goes, "Dad, but Thanksgiving's coming. Where are they going to eat for Thanksgiving?" I said, "Probably nowhere." So he said, "What can I do?" And I said, "Well, why don't we save your Xbox, or you save your Christmas money and cash out some of your Xbox games?" And he did that, and we fed that year, I think it was 9 people we fed out of a church. And it was a life-changing experience for him.
There's a lot to be done, though. And I sometimes feel as though you almost have to partition off all of the things that are wrong with the world and all the things that if you could help, you'd love to help. But there's only so much you can do. There's only so much of you to go around, and you've seemed to have incorporated it into not just as a partitioned part of your life, but in every aspect of
Right, and I think the most important part of when you bring children into the mix, you're developing leadership skills, but there's something to be said when a 9-year-old child can pick up a 30-pound basket of a turkey and stuffing and gravy and knock on a door, and somebody opens up who's afraid to open up, who's never seen a little kid in probably decades, and they hand him a turkey. So I said to the parents, forget giving me $10. You can give me $10, but have your kids meet me at the church, Olivet Presbyterian, Sunday at 11 o'clock, and you'll see the difference. And that sticks with kids forever. And we're creating leaders. Those little seeds, imagine what they're going to do in 10 years.
So you got me interested in you when I watched a podcast of Mike, and you've got a program, we'll talk about it, in which you're finding and interviewing and getting to the bottom of why people are entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us about that program. What's that about, and how did it start?
You know, I'm a big fan of Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if you've ever read Think and Grow Rich.
If I had, I would be.
Yes. You go Napoleon Hill. It's a famous book written in the 30s.
Yeah.
And it's all about finding mentors, and people have done it. Success leaves clues is something Tony Robbins says. When I was building this, I had a mentor. His name was Brian Klein from the Max Challenge. And I said to him when I opened up my first podcast, which is called Rock City Central for anybody that cares, "Brian, would you be my first guest?" He said yes. But we met every single month at the Manalapan Diner, and we went over and reviewed ideas and just tactical ideas on what to do and structures and plans. And his help and his leadership and mentoring skills got me to where he walks in, he goes, "There's no way what we did," and we discussed those few hours. But I wanted to honor him. And then it kind of took off. And then I realized all the other people that I know as entrepreneurs. I had Jimmy Pecci from Taste of Italy. He was here. I had the folks from Revolutionize, a weightlifting sort of nutritional specialist who are awesome. I have this guy coming in, Barry Habib, who is the executive producer to Rock of Ages. He's coming here next Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had Dr. Schwitz. This is the biggest dentist or orthodontics dentist in the Marlboro, Manalapan, Powell area. Yeah. I just wanted to see how they got there. And it's strange because Dr. Schwitz, for example, I said, "How did you get here? Your father was a dentist." He broke down. It was almost like you never heard him talk about his father, and he had to collect himself because I think he had to reflect on where it all began. And we're bringing people back. Did you know that the Max Challenge, you see Max all over the place, which is Brian Klein's Max Challenge. It's, the whole exercise thing.
Sure.
His dad's name is Max. He took it to the max,
Got it.
There are things that you learn about, and I'm learning as much as, the audience is, and I want the audience to not know, forget about Rock Out Loud, learn about these products, these individuals.
But entrepreneurs are special people.
Yeah.
They're not 9 to 5, work for the corporation 50 years, get a watch and retire. These are people that have something different inside of them than the average person. And I think part of it is not only having some enthusiasm and energy around a passion for what it is you want to do, but having some business sense. And having both of those things together in business sense, including how to market and how to make a business out of what you enjoy. A lot of people don't have that. And they may say, I'm going to open a restaurant because I have a lot of recipes and I'm a good cook at home. Yeah, you got to have a little more than that. Yep. And I sometimes wonder whether being an entrepreneur is something that you are slightly born with versus something you learn to put together the passion and the business sense or the skill that you need to be able to make a go of it.
You brought such an incredible topic, and I hope entrepreneurs can really get this. I was the person who wanted to play guitar and make some money. That was my entrepreneur. I was opening up my own music school, but I was going to be the teacher. It wasn't until I read a book called The E-Myth. The E-Myth talks about getting out of the business and working on the business, not in the business, and then you have the entrepreneur, then you have the person like the coach, in my instance would be the coach, and then you have the office manager, so to speak. That's the way I've siloed it.
Well, it's a classic style of being a leader.
That's
where you have to let go at some point. You hire the right people and bring people in to share your vision. Right?
And he uses a perfect example. He said, think of the guy who's working for a construction firm who builds houses. You get these guys that are banging in the nails and they're putting up the house. They look back and they go, I did the whole thing. Yeah. Why is my boss getting all the credit and making all the money?
Sure.
Let's go out and do it ourselves. So they do. They go out, they find somebody, they build a house. And when the house is done, they're like, okay, now we got to find somebody else to go build a house for. Yeah. So it's when you understand that there's a person, the entrepreneur, the leader here, and then you got the mechanics doing all the work, but that entrepreneur is getting that next job on their plate.
I think there's a lot of people, and kids especially, that go to college and either follow in their family's footsteps or decide, well, how can I make the most money? Should I be a tax accountant? Should I be a doctor? How do you follow your passion? How do you sort of sit quietly and become somewhat introspective and before you even acquire any business sense, decide what it is you want to do? I mean, some people say, follow your passion, the money will follow. But most people can't even find their passion. There was a great quote from somebody, it was a French philosopher, I believe, who said, the important thing is this, to be able at any moment to sacrifice who we are for what we might become. And I think people sometimes are so sedentary in the way they live, they don't even care to seek what their passion or follow their passion. They don't know what it is. Did your passion evolve?
My passion for music has always been there. My passion to make music a career. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was at all. I thought you work a real job, and then you just turn around and say, you know what? Now that I got some money, I'm going to make a business and do something with it.
Sure.
I couldn't even spell entrepreneur 15, 17 years ago.
I can't.
So the key is to find your passion. Yes, if you wake up in the morning, you're excited about it. Like, I'm not so excited about doing the technology part, but when I'm here on Saturday mornings and Sunday, I am immersed with this. Yeah. My dad's a brilliant man. He told me a Mark Twain quote. He said, there's two most important days in your life: the moment you're born and the moment you figure out what you're here for. I was lucky. There are people that go 50 years and they don't know. But I knew what I was here for the moment I taught my first music lesson.
I tell my daughter sometimes, and I've told some of my viewers occasionally what my philosophy of life is, and that is it's similar, but, and this sounds morbid, but you live to die. I mean, in a sense, the last moment that you have on this earth, it better be your best, because if you've lived a life that's been full of challenges and unique opportunities, and Helen Keller said life is either a daring adventure or nothing. And if you don't make it that daring adventure and try to avoid all the negative stuff and try to get attracted and involved in the positive stuff, and the last breath that you take as everything comes reeling back like an emotional tsunami, if you go out with that tsunami being 120% positive, then you've lived a good life. And what else is there to live for but death?
That's true.
It sounds morbid, and I don't mean it to be morbid. But it puts things into perspective.
Yes, that's what exactly. I was just about to say that. If you look at your life, like I see these people who are young kids coming out of college, Harvard, all these big colleges, and they're there. I want to say they're probably working about 100 hours a week. They're there Friday until midnight. They're there Thursday until midnight. They eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. And I sit back and say, wow, I cannot imagine that this is fulfillment to them. Because I can't imagine that working 100 hours, not seeing your friends, not seeing your family, and just focusing on this. But everybody's different. That could be their thing, or they could be a guitar player that's waiting to open up a music school.
Speaking of which, as you look at the kids that come in here, either in Staten Island or here, there are differences between the kids that are really working hard to try and become a musician versus the kids that are child prodigies. What's the difference?
The difference is being able to distinguish which are which. Because if you're going to think or treat every child that they're going to one day be a prodigy, you're going to have 4 students. I taught probably 600 students in my day. I think I've spoken or taught rather 3 prodigies. Literally just 3. So if my business was dependent on teaching every child to become a prodigy or to become a master at their instrument, I would have had 3 students. Instead, and I'm going to bring this back to you then, and this is how I think my business became so successful. My father says that, I bring back my father all the time, 5th grade to 1st grade or 1st grade to 5th grade. John, who taught you how to read?
My mom.
Okay, but now 5th grade to 1st grade, 1st grade to 5th grade. Who's your favorite teacher?
Yeah, well, Mr. Harlan, he was hands-on. He wasn't by the book. He taught us how to, at 6th grade, he taught us how to dissect frogs. And it wasn't in the curriculum. He went off the book. So he'd bring in people to have a real-life experience, which is similar to what you're doing here in the sense that you're not in a room being lectured by some guy. You're immersed, as we talked about before, in the process of finding your own greatness through music.
And the moral of that story is forgetting about who taught you how to read. It's you remember how you were treated. And my coaches, and I train my coaches all the time, is it's how you treat that individual. I have students that still call me up 20 years later and say, listen, I don't even play anymore, but I just love the way. So when you have that connection, you inspire folks.
That's the same thing. My girlfriend is an English teacher in high school, and I happened to fail my senior English, so I couldn't graduate with the rest of my class. I had to go to summer school, so now this is a remedial relationship for me to learn English again. I kid. But the interesting thing is there are kids, a lot of them, that don't know, that don't care to, don't have that passion that we've talked about to learn. They think this is a force fit for them, that they have to go to school, and they don't really understand why. And a lot of them just want to go join the military after high school or do something else, which is fine. Yeah. But there are others, and you can tell the difference, where people really are eager to learn how to read.
Right.
Learn how to play the guitar. You showed me some guitars up at the front that are for smaller children.
That's right.
They're not very complicated. They have, instead of 5 strings,
6 strings,
or 6 strings, they have 3 strings.
Right. So yes, so we developed, or I shouldn't say we developed, there's a program that was developed by Dave Simon. It's called Kids Rock. Kids Rock is dedicated to 4 to 7-year-old children. And the idea is to get them in a band, and within 45 minutes they're playing, and it's an 8-week program, and then they play a big show. So we decided to do this here at Rockoutloud because it simplifies music in colors. So we don't tell you to play a G note, we tell you to play the red note. And if it's a bass drum, it's red, and if it's a snare drum, it's blue. If I teach you in colors, you're going to pick up like that. We can teach a child how to play in colors in less than 5 minutes. But try explaining what a kick drum is and what a snare drum is and when to hit it. If I just say red, red, blue, you're going to go red, red, blue. And it's so simple. So what Dave Simon did is he incorporated colors as well. So we rip off 3 out of the 6 strings, simplify the heck out of it, and put these colors on there so a kid just plays in colors. And James had filmed and videotaped some of this stuff. It's amazing that in 45 minutes, the kids were riveted. These were 5 and 6-year-old kids. Their attention span only lasts 5 minutes. But in 45 minutes, they were focused and they were up and playing.
You must be a rock idol to these kids. You have so much energy and enthusiasm and faith and confidence in their abilities, don't you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, without that, I mean, how are you going to react to somebody that goes, "This is an E minor chord"? That's not going to juice you. You know, you want.
Yeah.
It's so funny because there's so many different ways to make a kid laugh because sometimes they struggle. You know, if the notes aren't coming out perfectly on the guitar, I say, "Wow, that's a guitar."
Yeah.
They're like, "Well, what's a guitar, Coach Mike?" I'm like, "Well, that's when the guitar farts." So you don't want that guitar to fart, and this is what we're gonna do to fix it. So all of a sudden they laugh, and there's no stress. It's so much fun when they play.
How is it structured here, Mike, in terms of, I don't want to hear the prices, but how are you structured in terms of how one might go about taking lessons here? What are the options?
So we have a regular music lesson pass where it's a monthly membership. We do up to 5 lessons. So if there are 5 Mondays in that month instead of 4, you're going to take 5 Mondays, and there's no price change. It's one flat fee. We have a thing called the monthly musician freedom pass. You get 10% off. So if, for example, I had 2 kids coming to the school, we would get 10% off, and that would be up to 10 lessons. So each kid could take a lesson. Sometimes in my place on Staten Island, we have a father who plays bass, the daughter that plays drums, and they have a monthly musician freedom pass, and they get together in the same room and they jam, which is great all the time.
Nice.
But we also offer something that nobody certifies. I don't know how many people do it here, but in Staten Island, we do this specific program called Rockstars Rising. So I spoke to a couple of the coaches, and they said, we got a lot of children on the spectrum who we're making such big strides with. Maybe we should develop a program. So I went out and researched to find out we had about 15 to 20% of our students had autism, or they were some kind of special needs children. So I went out and I found this company in Florida that actually certifies children or teachers and coaches to be certified professionals, and you have to take these modules and then pass the test, get certified. Yeah. So I did that and coached them. And all of a sudden, children who had audio sensory issues, they were playing drums.
Nice.
And then all of a sudden, people who were mute and never spoke, well, they were actually singing in bands. Yeah. So then Medicaid called us. What's going on at your music school on Staten Island? I said, it's the Staten Island School of Rock. We have this program. Come in and check it out. They came and saw it. Medicaid covers every expense for every child that's on this program.
That's nice.
So we've made differences and strides there. It's beautiful.
So you have a place in Staten Island. And Staten Island comprises mostly Italians. Let me guess, you're Italian.
I'm Italian.
Okay. So not many Italians down here. There are a few.
There are a few.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Where are you originally from?
I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I caught a little accent there.
Everybody says, I don't hear it. I don't hear it, but everybody says there's some kind of Brooklyn accent. Yeah. Brooklyn, New York. I was born and raised for 28 years. I was there.
Yeah. And then they built the bridge across to Staten Island, and that's when all the Italians came over to Staten Island in droves.
They did.
And this is going to air not only on Comcast in a lot of areas throughout the world here, but it's going to air on the Facebook group in Staten Island, Brooklyn on the Bay, and then all along the Jersey Bayshore. If people want to learn more about this or you, what can they do?
Well, like Rockoutloud.com. That's where you can find us on the internet. We are all over social media. So if it's Facebook.com/Rockoutloud, we're all over Instagram.com/Rockoutloud. So anything that you need is Rockoutloud. But if you want to email me, it's rockoutloud@gmail.com, and our phone number here is I'm thinking the wrong numbers here. 732-984-4060. I also own the Staten Island School of Rock. Been on Staten Island now for 15 years. I love Staten Island, and that's what really got me to this place, because everything that I did on Staten Island that worked or didn't work, that's what I used to build this space.
One of these days I have to talk to you about Staten Island, because I'm just now starting to explore it, and there is so much. I'm writing a book about the history of Raritan Bay and all the land masses around it. And Staten Island, so far, is one of the most interesting.
Yeah, I love. There's a big piece of me on Staten Island. That's where I opened up my first school. That's where I bought my first home. There's a big piece of my heart on Staten Island. I love it there.
Now, you work in New York City. Do you like New York City?
I absolutely love it, but it's over a 2-hour commute each way. I hate the commute. Hate the commute.
I lived in Chester, New Jersey for a long time, worked for AT&T as a PR vice president, and it took me 2.5 hours each way, and my little girl was just an infant, hardly saw her, because I get home, I could take a limousine once in a while, but for the most part, I just got on the train with the masses and 2.5 hours is
tough.
and 2 hours is a long commute.
Yeah.
I know. What do you do while you commute?
It's a great question. Read books, lots of podcasts and stuff like
What
that.
do you like to read? What kind of books?
I love the self-help, the stuff like Brian Tracy, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. If anybody ever wants to get rich, please. It's a very thick book, but they have it on podcast, audiocast. Think and Grow Rich. My dad's a doctor of education. Think and Grow Rich was written in the 30s by Napoleon Hill, who was hired by Dale Carnegie to go out and find out all of the secrets.
Power of positive thinking.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in the 1930s, it was done. And Napoleon Hill didn't get paid for this, by the way. So when I was brought to this book, which was through Brian Kine, he told me about. I told him about it. He goes, my dad bought this for me in high school. Then I started interviewing other billionaires from where I work on Wall Street. They all said the same thing. They read.
What do you mean,
book.
other billionaires? Are you a billionaire?
No.
Well,
I'm
you
not.
will be. I guarantee there's going to be a billionaire.
I really hope so. But they all said the same thing. They were given this book to read in high school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get home. I said, Dad,
Yeah.
you're a PhD in education, the smartest, most brilliant man I know.
Yeah.
Why didn't you give me this book in high school? You know what he said? Did it just come out? Who's Napoleon Hill?
Oh boy.
I said, oh my God,
There
are
you
you
go.
kidding me?
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill. So he never read it. But you'll find that most people don't even know this book exists.
My book in high school that changed my life was Gehal Gibran, The Prophet, which I read, and it was very philosophical, and I've been philosophical ever since.
Wow.
What is your inspiration in terms of music? What did you like growing up, and how is that involved?
I grew up absolutely loving Led Zeppelin. When I heard Led Zeppelin for the first time, I was hooked.
They are the masters.
They are. In fact, I was just taking regular guitar lessons through teachers that weren't teaching me music, how to play like Led Zeppelin. And I was about to quit, and this guy, Adam Weiner, said, you got to go to my guitar teacher, Kenny. And I'm like, I'm just done. He goes, he's going to teach you Zeppelin. Yeah. He taught me the first 2 notes of Dazed and Confused, and from that moment on, I spent 14 hours a day, every day practicing.
I've been dazed and confused for so long.
It's not true.
It's not true.
But to inspire me now...
Sorry.
Yes, Robert, it's okay. We'll edit that. We'll put the sound over it.
Maybe.
But now when I go to Disney every year, and Disney inspires me. You'll see a lot of Disney here, the music in Disney.
So can you play all the riffs on Stairway to Heaven?
Yes, note for note, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I could.
I got to do that. So you got to come to my home studio. We got to lay down some tracks, and I'll take credit for it. My gosh, do you do any more studio work yourself? Or you've got a studio here.
I do.
Do you have time? I don't have time anymore.
I don't have much time. In 2007, I finished my very last album called My Dash Between the Numbers.
Oh.
You can find it on iTunes.
Yeah.
My Dash Between the Numbers, Mike Grande. I wrote that knowing it was going to be my coda, my last go at this.
Yeah.
Because I wanted my kids to remember Mike at this point of his life before he went to that next journey. And that's how they're going to remember.
I've done 5 or 6 albums. My kids don't really want to listen to them at all. They only have one daughter. She's 33, but not her thing.
But you know what? In 20 years, she's going to say, "Wow, that was my dad."
Well, I've already told her to play it at my funeral, whether she likes it or not. Just play all my stuff.
There you go.
All my originals. You're a songwriter too.
I
aren't
am.
you? How do you go about? How have you gone about writing songs?
I've never been a lyricist. So when Joe Satriani, who is a phenomenal guitar player out of Long Island, came out with Surfing with the Alien, I said, wow, I could really write melodies now in exchange for lyrics. And that just took it off. So I did that, and that's, in fact, the album is all instrumental. My guitar speaks for me. I write lyrics internal. You'll hear me, or you can watch me scat and sing the notes as I'm playing the melody, but my whole being is just that electric guitar.
Which guitar do you like to bond with?
Paul Reed Smith. I'm a Paul Reed Smith guy.
Nice.
Beautiful.
I'm telling you something. Music can change your life, and if you are a parent, you don't necessarily want to haul your child here kicking and screaming.
Right.
Let them watch Led Zeppelin, see what they think. Bring them in.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Bring them. Take them. There's no commitment. You'll take them on a tour. Won't you?
We'll take them on a free tour. You have trials that we offer them with no obligations. If they want to take a trial, Have them come in. When they walk in, they're already sold because they see you got the audience stage theaters. You have the big drum room. We're gonna make you feel like a rock star.
You got a popcorn delivery system there, free popcorn. You got
Rock
a
Out Loud
lounge.
water. We have our own Rock Out Loud water.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't even had a chance.
Yeah, Rock Out Loud water.
This program is brought to you by Rock Out Loud Water. Excuse me. Let me try it, may I? I'll give you a testimonial.
Absolutely.
Good. Just like water.
Exactly.
You've got a sense of humor too, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
That helps.
Yeah, it does. People like the energy. People like the camaraderie. When you have that rapport, you can get rapport. It just, you mix and match, or match and mirror, they call it. So you came out, hey, my name is John. I'm like, hey, you doing, John? But if you said, my name is John, I'd be like, hey, John, how you doing?
So you said this was the first time, which I doubt, but
I've been interviewed.
That you've been interviewed. Give me an assessment. What'd you think? How'd you like it? Did you enjoy it? What didn't I ask you?
No, you asked me a lot of questions that I don't think I would have asked anybody else. I'm learning a lot from this interview, and you could see that you're very you're very seasoned. You're not a guy that just does this once in a while.
I'm actually listening to Led Zeppelin in this ear right now.
Oh, there you go. Dazed and confused.
Communications breakdown.
Yes.
Communication. It's A, and
it'll drive you insane.
A and D, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It'll drive you insane.
Yeah.
Having a real tough breakdown.
That's right.
So, long story short is you did a great job. I didn't realize the questions were going to be so in depth and have more to do with outside of my music school. Just the whole spirit of being an entrepreneur. I think we can encourage people.
Well, I think you're an interesting man. I think what you're doing is interesting in terms of teaching kids and helping entrepreneurs and shaping young minds and that sort of thing. And I've learned some things too, so I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, Mike.
John, thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Good.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you'll come back next week and watch another episode of Raritan Bayshore Living. Remember what I always say. If you see me out there, maybe I'm in a boat or flying a drone or lying on a park bench trying to get some shut-eye, it don't matter. Tap me on the shoulder, introduce yourself, because, folks, nothing is more important than meeting you. So long, everybody. Bye-bye.